Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
Lauren Winter has spent more than 15 years in digital media. And if you ask her how she got there, she'll tell you it was an accident. A friend of hers introduced her to the industry, and she's never left. Today, she's the head of operations advertising at Vox Media, leading the teams and systems behind the full advertising sales cycle. She's guided her organization through 2 mergers, multiple restructures, and right now, she's building AI and automation into the core of how her team operates. She's also a mentor, a mom of 3, and someone who speaks very honestly about what leadership and balance actually look like from the inside.
Lauren, hi. We're glad to
Hi,
have you.
happy to
But
be here.
I'm I'm hoping that you can explain what you do. What's your job?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm leading operations for the advertising org at Vox Media. So that means all of the pre-sale planning, post-sale execution, the rate cards, the packaging, the go-to-market strategy, internal sales enablement, and then the ad operations of trafficking and making sure that the campaigns that we do run perform and deliver the way that clients expect them to, hopefully driving right back into the planning stage.
Okay. And so maybe you can tell me a little bit more about what does a day in your job look like?
Yes, there's never one day that is the same, which is a great thing and a challenging thing all at the same time. So in addition to leading those functions, one of the things that I'm most focused on is making sure that our internal process that is behind all of that function in the sales cycle makes the most sense and is as efficient as possible. So a lot of the time is spent working on fixing maybe some of the process gaps in some of the parts of the process, or working on ways in which some of the handoffs or some of the information sharing can be automated and work faster internally to therefore give the client the best possible experience. So a lot of it is that, and a lot of the day-to-day is also solving internal or external problems that come up with the campaign, maybe not delivering the way that it should, or with a client maybe concerned about one of the elements that has just launched that we need to work together to figure out a best way to make everyone internally and externally happy. So a lot of problem solving both internally and externally, as well as long-term problem solving of filling some of those process gaps and efficiencies.
So I'm guessing you didn't say in college, this sounds what I would like to do. How did you get here?
Yeah, that's a great question. In college, I majored in PR, and I did start a PR internship right after college, and I wanted to move into the city as fast as I could, so I wanted to take a job that was paying as fast as I could, and one of my friends got me a job at Mindshare, so that was kind of my first step into digital media. I didn't even know it really existed as a career path. And from that first job, I've been in it ever since 15 plus years later now. So it's it was kind of accidental that I stumbled upon it, but then it's an ever changing world. It's never boring. You're never at a point in digital media where you figured it all out because the technology is changing just as fast. The advertiser spending is changing just as fast. So it's an exciting industry to be in for sure. So, yeah, accidentally fell into it, but have been here ever since.
What
Mhm.
has what has been like the biggest highlight of your job? What has been like a standout memory that was spectacular?
A standout memory. I think in general, it's been the leading of people,
Mm.
and I love to see those on my team grow and succeed, whether that be at this company or another company. So anytime that there's someone that I've mentored or someone that I've managed that gets promoted, or even if they were to leave Vox, but it's for a incredible opportunity and I see them continue to flourish and grow in their careers, like, that is my favorite part about what I do in general. So all of those moments have been memorable to watch people grow and succeed in their own right.
And I was curious if you could talk a little bit about what are some of the top skills needed for advertising today or advertising operations, I guess, specifically.
Yeah. I would say is if you're starting out in your career, curiosity and being just motivated and interested in the work that you're doing and caring about the overall industry and aware of what's going on in the industry. And that is great for someone that's stepping in, is just that the energy to learn and tackle anything that may come your way and not to be too narrow in the job search and figuring out starting anywhere. So if there's a role that you think you might not be interested in, but that's the first opportunity, like, grab it, because you can either find out you're interested in it, or maybe you find out you're not, and that's great, you learned that too, or you meet other people and network along the way to find your next path. And so being curious and open-minded, absolutely. And then being calm, and I feel like I have said this a few times, but it's so important, is being calm and solutions oriented and, like, fact focused, and being able to work through problems without letting that stress level rise, and being a source of calm for the team and for yourself, because there are, especially in advertising, a lot of wild things that come up and you never know what's gonna come up from day to day. So expect the craziness and be someone that can kind of anchor in it and anchor people around you in it. And being really resourceful. It's understanding what resources you have available to you internally, and both people or process docs or whatever it may be, to be able to be as independent as possible in the work that you're doing, and that that will help.
So, using those top skills, how does someone get promoted? What's worked for you?
It's a really good question, because I probably would have answered this differently 10 years ago than I
Mhm.
would right now, and there's a lot of things that I've learned. I wouldn't say the hard way, but I it just took me a while to learn that maybe I would be helpful for those that are just starting out in their career, and that is, 1, doing your job well is kind of the expectation. It's the baseline,
Mhm.
and the way that you get promoted is by making other people's jobs easier. So you wanna be able to do your job well, but you also wanna be a team player and and make sure that you are managing up and your manager knows the things that you're working on and what you're stuck on and what you've accomplished, and then managing out as well to make sure that you're being the best possible partner for your peers, and that you're thinking of things that would help the overall org to be better. So as I grew in my career, one of the biggest things that shifted is, instead of focusing on my exact role, or like if I was leading a smaller team, my exact team's function, to start thinking about the larger organization
Mm.
and what decisions can be made to support the larger org, even if your particular function might have a give and a take to make that happen, because whatever is best for the overall org is truly best for everybody on your team, because that's what's best for the business and allows it to thrive. So I would say absolutely being aware of what's around you and being the best possible partner for your peers and for your manager, and knowing that you control your energy and you control your visibility. So make sure that you are calm, fact focused, solutions oriented, and always being clear about what you're working on and what you've accomplished to make sure that people know.
What do you think people would be most surprised to know about your job?
Mm, it's just as much managing people and emotions as it is managing
Mm,
operations.
okay.
As you come into a leadership role with a larger team, and you have to think about all of that when you're making decisions, when you're rolling out changes. We've gone through quite a few org designs, in addition to the mergers over the last 6 years, and you have to understand the technical questions that'll come up, yes, and, like, be able to think ahead to how everything is going to come to life from an executional perspective and think ahead in terms of what questions and problems we can solve ahead of time there, but also think about the fact that the people on your team are going through a change, and you've had more time to think about that change than they have because you've been planning it. So then figuring out on a people side too, what's the best way to manage that transformation internally in a way that you can acknowledge the change, acknowledge what's uncomfortable, control the chaos, and make sure that you are as supportive as possible for the people on the team that have to see the transformation through.
Wow, and, you did say everything's changing fast. What are some of the changes that are coming? Like, do you have to worry about AI coming for your job or
I think there's a lot of changes coming, and or a lot of changes that have happened recently and more that are absolutely coming. In media in general, there's been a lot of consolidating of
Mm,
companies. So I've been at my current company technically for 12 and a half years, but we've been through 2 mergers in the last 6 years, so it hasn't
oh,
felt that way. It's felt like 3 different companies and many iterations in between as well. So a lot of, consolidating of the larger companies to make even larger media companies. There's been a lot of shifts in the way advertisers spend their money. So maybe in the more recent years, the emergence of retail media and especially in a digital sense, and a lot of maybe CPG brands shifting their money towards places like Walmart or Target. And then there's the emergence, of course, of social media and how much that has been a place where advertiser dollars have increasingly gone over the last few years. And then it's the changes in technology too. So, like you mentioned, AI, there's so much changing, even in the last 6 weeks, I would say the technology that is available via these LLMs that are is very impressive and like compounding week after week. So it's I think for anybody to say it's not gonna change the way they work, it's not that's not true, but also on the other side of the spectrum for people to say it's gonna change everything, everything's gonna be replaced, it's all gonna be AI, that's also maybe not the most sustainable way of looking at it either. It's sort of somewhere in between where we have to be able to adopt the technology because if a company refuses to do so, they will be left behind just the same as if a company refused the fact that, the internet was a thing and that any retail brand needed to have an e-commerce site.
mm,
Like, there was those that jumped on that fast did the best, and then same with publications like, New York Times is a great example, like, they jumped
mm,
on the internet fast and they did well because of it. So every company now in the media industry or outside of it should be jumping into or exploring what automation means for them specifically and building it in a way that gives the current workforce superpowers to
mm.
accelerate what they're able to do, but have it be even faster. And then investing and upskilling the workforce too to make sure that they're able to adapt to these tools and learn them, and it's going to be for every company eventually kind of table stakes to have that AI literacy as part of the job.
What would you tell someone to keep up to date with your industry?
the trade magazines are great to be able to understand exactly what's happening at the higher level. So, which agencies are winning which brands, like which holding companies are consolidating, or which brands are increasing their ad spend or decreasing their ad spend. But then on the smaller level, being chronically online is very important right now, especially in the advertising industry, because brands are jumping on to every trend, and as they
Mm.
should, that happens on social, especially if they want to reach a younger audience. So if a brand is in tune with the small trends that are happening on TikTok or on social or wherever it may be, they can be very fast in jumping in and being a part of that trend and being a part of that conversation. So, especially for folks that maybe are younger and starting their career, that's a place that a lot of brands are looking for, is someone that is chronically online and is able to understand the small trends that become very big very fast. And if you catch that one of the first ones, then you are a cool part of the conversation. If you're a week too late, then you can be, oh, like they were too slow on this, and it looks like your mom's trying to like be cool. So there's like a fine line in there, to be able to jump onto it quick enough. So that's an important part of the industry right now.
And I would ask too, like with so much going on, have you ever had to deal with burnout?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For myself and for some people on the team too, there's this saying that if you don't take a break, your body will take one for you, and that is
Ooh.
so true because it it can be, especially in a leadership position, you want to do the best possible work you can do for your team. And I don't want to get to a point where I reached that state of burnout and can't help them. And so earlier in my career too, I wasn't asking for help, and I didn't realize that that's something you could do. And now I realize that asking for help or being clear about what you can prioritize or reprioritize is actually healthy, and it shows that you are good at your job because you have the self-awareness necessary to do it successfully. So it is like knowing that you can ask for help, you can be very clear about what you're prioritizing versus reprioritizing, and that's what I try and share with the team too, that success is not doing it all. It's not doing all of the things on your list. Like,
Mm.
success is understanding exactly what's on your list, knowing what you can get done, and then asking for help or delegating the rest. And so, where people run into a problem when they have too much on their plate and things start getting missed, like deadlines get missed and clients don't get what they need and clients don't get answers, like that part of it's not acceptable, but no one's expected to do all of it. It's just you know that it needs to get done, so you ask for help in order to get the list complete.
Lauren, can you share what's the hardest type of day in your role?
I think every company, especially in media, has gone through rounds of reductions,
Mm.
and we've done that, and it sometimes has been I've had to have those conversations where it's performance related. I've had to have those conversations when it's not performance related at all. And both of them are extremely difficult because it's still someone's life and someone's job. And those conversations have been really hard.
Yeah. And so as much as your job is changing, your life has changed too because you had 3 kids.
Yes.
I the one more than me, and that just seems really hard, but, can you talk about how that impacted your work, how you juggle that?
Yeah. People do ask me often how I do it all, and my answer every single time is I don't. Like, it's impossible, you can't. You have to, on any given day, choose what's most important for that day, for any particular reason and make sure to focus on the elements that have the biggest impact at work or are the most visible for your kids. So then neither feels like they're getting the lesser part of you. Um, but I do think it's made me more efficient with my time because I need to do only the things that matter. And so that's made me better at home and also at work to be able to move quickly and prioritize. And there are a lot of days where it feels like you're not doing everything the best. But if you're able to figure out there's a million balls in the air at once and which ones you're able to drop that day and make sure that they're the ones that can bounce back and not the ones that shatter, then it's you can get through the week. And I do that by prioritizing at the beginning of the week and figuring out on each day what's the most important thing that I can get done, what are the non-negotiables that absolutely have to get done before the end of the week, both in personal life and at work, and making sure that we're prioritizing the day to achieve those goals.
And then I was also wondering, being a woman in your job and you are now managing people,
Mhm.
has there been any kind of pushback about being a woman at your status? Do you feel that there has been sexism?
I haven't felt it directly. There may be things that I put on myself, that I put pressure on myself because of
Mhm.
that. But it hasn't been overt. But for example, like there are people at work that don't have to deal with the fact that there are 3 kids and one of them is always sick, and you have to be home by 6 to make sure that you can pick them up, and it's not possible to go to a 4 p.m. meeting because then it's not out till 5, and then you won't get home till 'cause I work in New York and live in New Jersey, I won't get home till 6:30 or 7.
Mhm.
So, it's not possible to go to, like, a 4 p.m. meeting in person or a 9 a.m. meeting in person because of the childcare on either end of it. So then that's where I put pressure on myself, like, "Oh, it looks like I'm slacking. Oh, it looks like I'm not doing the best that I can do," but I do think that I built the relationships internally where it's hopefully not felt outside of my own brain, and I have to one of the things that I need to work on, and I have been working on, is being nicer to myself in situations like
Yeah.
that, of just, like, do the things that need to get done.
We talked a
Well,
little bit about for younger people who are kind of starting out. Is there opportunity for other women to pivot into your industry?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different roles in the industry, and all of them maybe have parallel or transferable skills to others that may have started out in a different role or a different line of work. And so it's finding the area that is most parallel to the place where you have the experience. And then the most important part, because if you're making a career pivot, your resume may not read the way that you want it to. So the most important part is the networking. So
mm,
having someone that is advocating for you internally at any company that you want to be in is incredibly powerful in not only getting your resume seen, but then getting the conversation. And sometimes that conversation is what you need because a resume can read so flat. But if you get a conversation with someone that might be the hiring manager or a team that works with that role that's open, and you're able to convey your enthusiasm and you're willing to learn and your energy and you're like curious about this industry and this role in general, and that those are the things you can't teach. And if that comes across in an interview, there's a lot of hiring managers that know that they can teach the things. They can teach about what a CPM means or anything else that may be in digital media, but you can't teach people caring and wanting to learn and wanting to be part of a a team. So I do think the having the end to have that actual conversation in real life is so helpful in a career pivot.
oh, yes.
And we have a lot of women out there who are
Yeah.
looking for
We're
career
pivoting.
pivots right now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
great advice.
and it's even if there's a company that someone really loves and they message someone that works at that company and say, "Hey, I just wanna let you know I'm a really big fan, would love to connect and follow along." Like, it doesn't have to be, "Hey, can I have a job?" in, like, your first interaction. I think networking is a long game, so making connections in companies that are interesting to you or making connections in companies that, um, are growing and inspiring, if you just reach out and say, "Hey, you've had a big fan here, would love to connect," and then maybe a few months down the line, a role is open there, and you're able to reestablish that message on LinkedIn or whatever it is, then that person sees, "Oh, this is an actual fan, like, this person really cares about what we're doing here," and
Mhm.
maybe a little bit more likely to pass that resume along, so I just any chance to make any connection is helpful for future you.
And I was kind of curious about networking,
Mhm.
that's an outside person kinda networking in. How does that work when you're inside the organization?
Yeah.
Finding those sponsors because it's not
Mhm.
just about mentorship.
Yeah, I love that question because it's equally as important. Networking internally at your company is equally as important as finding the connections outside, and I do think it's naturally easier to do that in terms of you have more opportunity to do that internally in a company, and it might be stepping out of your comfort zone, but it's, "Hey, I'd love to grab a coffee and, like, talk about what you do on that side of the business," or I would love to hear from you about how if it's a direct manager, like, how you think I'm doing so far and what can I do to get to the next level, or if it's a peer, again, just like, "Hey, this is how I'm thinking about this role evolving. Would that be helpful for your side of the business? Like, what can my team do to help yours?" And building those connections internally work on a basis of work or just on a personal level too, in terms of um, getting to really know people at work. And I think is helpful when it comes to the next opportunity because you are then top of mind and you're visible. And if people have the opportunity to go into the office and it's an option, I do highly recommend doing that. If you're in a role that's fully remote, you should be camera on, super engaged, like, be in that chat and,
Yeah.
like, make those connections in any way that you can so people know that you are, again, excited to be there and that their name comes up when opportunities do.
I'm
That's
glad you
great
mentioned
advice.
what you can do if you're fully remote
Mhm.
to connect, which is actually because there's usually the assumption if you're remote, no one cares and no one's paying attention to you. But it's nice to think that, well, okay, maybe you can connect without
Yeah.
being fully.
Yeah, you can. If someone gives a presentation, like I heard someone say recently, "You never admire in silence," and I love
Mm,
that so much. So if someone gives like a presentation that it was so good, no matter what level that person's at, Slack them or send them whatever internal message system you use and say, "Hey, that was really great." Like you can build that connection virtually for sure. It's just about being, again, camera on is so important, engaged and just in it. You can tell if someone's camera's on but not paying attention.
yes, that's true.
Yep.
Very true, yes.
Mhm.
Can you tell us what you would tell your younger self as far as career advice?
Yeah. I do think that you control your own energy is a big
Mm,
piece of it, and to remember everything is going to be okay, and you need to just take a deep breath and determine what needs to be done right now to kind of control the chaos and what's the solution that's needed at the moment and be calm, fact focused, solutions oriented in reaching that solution. You can always go back and figure out how we got here later,
mm,
but focusing on the solution that needs to happen now and remaining calm in that situation in order to be able to think clearly enough to get to that solution is an important thing to learn early.
oh, great. Thank you so much for talking to us, Lauren. This was
Of
great. This
course,
was
thank
actually
you.
really informative.
Great.
Thanks a lot,
for
Lauren.
networking.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay. So before we get into the takeaways from this episode, I think it probably is a good idea that we kind of explain what Lauren's department actually does. Because I think the idea of advertising operations is one of those titles that sounds like a lot, but doesn't actually tell you exactly what it does. So I think basically when a brand buys ads on a platform like Vox, Lauren's team makes sure the whole thing runs, the planning, the pricing, the campaign, the reporting. So her whole team kind of oversees all of it.
She probably makes really good money.
Yeah, the average, annual salary that I found on salary.com for this level of work is like $276,000 a year,
Which is good.
which is really good. It
Yeah.
also doesn't include that's just the salary, that doesn't include, like, bonus,
Mhm.
benefits, like, her compensation package is probably very healthy.
So, what is, distressing to me, so 56% of the advertising managers were women, but women earn 96% of what men earn.
I know. There is
Which
still a
is
gap in what they earn versus men.
yeah, yeah. I'm not
Um,
worried for Lauren, but I'm
I'm not
just
worried, it's
and there's a little bit of growth. Not a
yeah.
ton of growth, but a little bit.
No, I think the only thing that's, disturbing about maybe whatever the numbers are for job growth is
Mhm.
the impact of things like AI on
Mm.
lower level jobs within the
Mhm.
organization, and so there's sort of a concern I would have about n then you're, like, truncating
Yeah, who are
your
they going to promote?
experience.
Yeah.
How do you promote somebody then if they don't even start
Yes.
at the beginning? So it'll be interesting to see how AI implementation and all the consolidation that's happening actually in advertising will kind of play out in terms of opportunities in the future. But definitely, I think if you start to understand how to use AI or implement AI, you may be able to have a job,
Mhm.
in the future state of what advertising may look like.
Yes. You should know AI, and AI will come for you.
Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.